Welcome to the Huntley Leadership Podcast, helping leaders be a positive catalyst in the people they support, the organizations they serve, and the communities they live. This podcast will make you think, laugh, and grit your teeth with new determination to make your parish or business a place of transformation, passion, and purpose. If you're still breathing, you are powered for impact. Why are over 100 young adults showing up in a church basement every Tuesday night in a time when so many churches struggle to reach young people? My name is Ron Huntley. Welcome to the Huntley Leadership Podcast. Today I'm talking with my son, Christian Huntley, who's leading the church. It's only his second time running Alpha, but he's built an incredible team who's creating a space where young adults want to be. So if your parish is struggling with engaging the next generation, then stick with us. We're diving into what's working, what's surprising, and how you can do the same thing in your church. Christian, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back.
So what's going on with this Alpha? Paint us a picture. What's it feel like when 100 plus young adults show up for Alpha?
It's fun. It's a little bit chaotic in there, especially from the back end of it, knowing that we have to make sure that the lights are on and that the video is running. And it's very chaotic, but our team is so much fun to work with. And it's fun. It feels like a bit of a party. You know, we eat a meal together, we watch video, and we get to talk about some of the most important questions in life. So I'm really enjoying it. Our team's having a blast.
Congratulations. What do you think makes this Alpha so appealing to people under 35?
It's a good question. We're still trying to figure it out too. This was a vision from one of our staff at our church had a vision of doing an Alpha like this, and just didn't have the people around her to bring it to life until now. And we thought, hey, why don't we give it a try and see if it's helpful? Because we were missing this age demographic, 18 to 35, in our church. Like, they just weren't around. And so we thought, why don't we try to run an Alpha for them? And we thought, I was pretty optimistic, and that I thought maybe we can get like 75, 80 people out. And we ran it last season, and we had 150 registrations, and about 80 people were coming out every night. And this season, it seems to be even bigger. And it's interesting to me. I think we've all kind of been brought up in a similar culture, and we have similar views around faith and spirituality, and our experiences are similar. And so it's easier maybe to talk about this stuff with people that are our own age, and that kind of seems to be the case in Alpha in general. But I think around this age, like we enjoy spending time together. You know, like a lot of our peers are out at the bars and hanging out there, and school's a very social thing, and so to come and ask the bigger questions of life together is fun. So I think that might be some of it, but we're still trying to figure it out ourselves. We're not exactly sure what is going on, but we're just trying to hang on and have fun with it.
It's kind of exciting. How's it differ? Because I know, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about this later, but I know you ran the training because you guys at St. Benedict are launching 3 Alphas at the same time. And so how's this one different in your mind?
How is this context different, or like
the under 35 age group? Yeah.
How's it different from the other 2 Alphas?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not in that, like, in the gist of what Alpha is, but there is an energy about it. I think our team is really excited about this. It's not something that they've been involved in before. And what was your experience of running Alpha? Because I don't really have much other experience than this. Like, I'm not at the Wednesday night Alpha. I'm not at the daytime Alpha. I don't really know how those feel. But how did it feel for you?
Well, I remember when we started years ago, it was all people with the hair the same color as mine. And so we were running alpha with that demographic, and all of a sudden somebody showed up with hair color like yours, and we went, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do with that person?" And it's like, oh, I guess I'll head that table because we have two of them, and it grew over time. I think it grew not just because we kept doing alpha, but because we did connect groups, and connect groups really were having an impact on the entire family. And so I think young kids were growing up where we were normalizing talking about faith in your home with other Christians. And they heard about Alpha their whole life. So by the time they could do Alpha, they started bringing a ton of their friends. So we finally did reach the age demographic that you are. But I think, as I stepped away, things began to change a little bit. And then COVID hit, of course. And so I think you guys are building back to where you were before. But we'd never taken the approach you're taking now by having somebody like you leading. And so I think for me, somebody who was older, I found it actually quite daunting. So I felt like honest to goodness, we'd sit down in some of those groups, and I love those people. They'd be talking about smoking pot and going to their Buddhist retreat camps, and I just felt so out of my element. I'm thinking, I can't relate to these people at all. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's being talked about in your groups, but it was when I was leading a table full of younger people, and so I found it daunting because it wasn't my age demographic. And so I can only imagine it being led by you, and the team that you're put together is just way better fit than me. That'd be my guess.
Mm. It's interesting. As I'm thinking about that, one of the things that is different about our context, because we ran some young adult tables at a regular alpha before launching
Yep.
just strictly a young adult alpha. And at the regular alpha, every time we would come out of team meeting afterwards, everyone would be gone and we go home. And the first time we came out of our team meeting for young adult alpha, everyone was still there hanging out and talking. And so we had to find a bar to spill over into because everyone wanted to continue those conversations. There is a real contagious social atmosphere to it
Right.
that is fun. And I do think the biggest reason why people uh, are showing up in the first place and they keep coming back, and they
Mm.
mentioned this in the alpha training too, but alpha is yeah, there's promotion that happens on YouTube, and I mean there's signs around and stuff, but it's at its core, it's friends inviting friends. And
Right.
we have great people on team that have relationships that existed before they came to faith. And
Mm.
faith has finding Jesus has been good for them, and they just genuinely want to share that with their friends. And so when you have a
Right.
team full of people like that are just good people that want the best for others, it's fun to hang around, and it provides a good context to have these conversations. And I don't know if that's necessarily different than any other alpha, but that's what we're finding at ours.
Yeah.
And yeah, the fact that it's led by people the same age as those that are attending
Mm.
is probably interesting for people. It's not something that they've seen if they grew up in church or had any
Right.
experience of it at all.
It's funny you say that because even as I'm thinking about it, wasn't that we didn't try. We're constantly trying to get when we were growing in young people, we were constantly trying to get them involved in Alpha to be a part of the team and so on. And we did have some success getting them to be a part of the team. But having you lead the whole thing is a completely different animal. I had a hard time
Hmm.
getting people to commit. And not that you don't, we can talk about that, but I think you're a leader amongst your peers, and I think they're like I wasn't I was a leader, but those weren't my peers, and so my influence with them was different. And I'm laughing to myself because usually when alpha's over for the older age demographic, you come out, everybody's gone. They're home in bed. Like, they're like, "I can't believe I stayed up this late. It's time for my snack, and I get my pajamas on." And I always longed for that community that you're experiencing, because at HTB, it's exactly what they have. Of course, they're in South Kensington, London, and they spill out into the pubs, and then they take their tube ride home and off they go. But we'd never had that, but you guys do, and I just think that's so thrilling. But I don't know if that can happen without a you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I've been thinking about this a lot. One thing we're pretty aware of as a team, or at least for myself, for sure, I was brought up in a parish that was alive and on fire, and
Mm,
that's the parish that I'm still at now. That, like, I've been here for like 15 years, just being invested in by people like yourself and Father James and Father Simon and all the leadership of the church for 15 years. Um,
right.
and then when it finally comes time to step into an opportunity like this, like, I do have influence among my peers that other people don't, but I've been
Mm,
invested in for years and years and years, and then I'm put in a position where I'm able to lead out of my gifts and not have to do everything. Like, the
mhm,
support from the parish on this is ridiculous. Like, we have our life groups making and paying for every single full meal for 100 people every single week. Like, there's a new life group coming in and making sure that we're fed and taken care of. The
mm,
first night we ran this, I didn't realize how many details have to be taken care of, like setup and lighting and slides and sound and all this stuff. And our church just knows how to run Alpha, and so it happened. You know,
yeah.
like it really is a culmination of years and years of um, trying to do church well. You know, like letting the Spirit lead
Mm,
and just building a culture of ownership and um, there's just so many people around that know how to make it happen that when it yeah and it's not, and we still didn't have the people in place that could do this until
mhm,
now, you know. And then I came back and I'm available, and then Haley, my co-lead, is she comes to faith and she's like, I want to do this and I have gifts and skills that you don't, and that we complement each other so well, and then we're given that platform. It's like, I don't think it's something that you can necessarily force,
right.
but like, who are the young leaders in your parish already? Like, who are the people with influence
Mm,
um, that you can be pouring into, so that someday when the time is right and God has put a call on their life, they can step into it and you guys are ready to support them. Like that's
yeah.
more how I would handle it than saying, like, because what if I had a heart for like middle-aged professionals, like if I go out and try and start an Alpha for them, I don't know how well that's going to go. Like, they don't know me. I don't really have credibility in that sphere. Um,
Mhm,
but maybe I can be on the lookout for someone who does, and just be investing in them one-on-one and personally. Um,
yeah.
I think that's how I would approach it
Mhm,
more so. But yeah, like, I've always just wanted to minister to my peers. That's kind of
right.
always been my heart, because that's where my influence is, and
Yeah.
those are the people that God has entrusted me with, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, you grew up your whole life, you had youth ministry and children's ministry and it's always been a part of your church experience. I grew up, I had none of that ever, in the Catholic Church, when I grew up. And so it's really cool. You've had a very different, like, although certainly my mom was an incredible influence on me in terms of faith and prayer and holiness and accountability and all that stuff, but not the church in general. Like, church was just a place you'd go that was usually boring as all get out, to be honest with you. But I love Jesus and I went. But you didn't have that experience, which is pretty cool. Although you did find church quite boring when we were in Moncton, but nonetheless, we were trying. But you're only young. Um, but I just realized, Father James's vision for evangelization was not to start with the youth; it was to start with adults, and we did.
Mm.
And it wasn't that we didn't have youth ministry; we did, but we doubled down on adults, and then so evangelization and leadership development were absolutely primary to everything we did, and we did start growing younger in our alphas. And I think connect groups, not life groups as they are now, but connect groups as they used to be, really drove everything because the kids were present in that, and there was a lot going on, and it normalized vibrant Christian life in homes, and they would see those people on the weekends in terms of worship. And so there was just this entire groundswell from the bottom up. But that took years. Like, you guys are 14 years into this, and so Father James and I got there and started doing that stuff. And so I never thought about that. You're literally the fruit of that entire vision. And so you couldn't be more ready. Like, I think you were 2 when you watched your first Alpha series. Literally. Actually, that's not true. You were
Yeah.
1. You don't know. It's like cell phones. You don't know life without it. And so in so many ways you were prepared. So let that for our listeners, like if you're running alpha and stuff, like have patience and have vision beyond alpha, because you will get there if you continue to be intentional and you continue to try. But if you think you're going to get there by hiring a youth minister that never run alpha before, and just all of a sudden they're going to come to your church and your young adult alpha is going to explode, you're probably going to be miserably disappointed. Is that fair?
Yeah, I do think it's slow and intentional, because even my heart for this was like, I've always had it, but uh, I started youth groups when I was playing hockey in Quebec that just kind of went nowhere. Like it was like 5 or 6 kids, really hard to get momentum, and I wanted to get momentum, but it was just hard to do. Um,
Mm.
but I learned from that and moved on. And we did it again in Moncton, and they're still going. I got a message from Father Angus the other day that said, "Hey, it's 5 years since we started our youth group here." So we had a good laugh about that. But and then we ran Alpha online during COVID, and
Mm-hmm.
it went well. And but all the whole time, just to have like I've known Alpha to be a leadership pipeline from the way you guys would run it at St. Benedict's when I was growing up. And so the whole time we're running Alpha with our friends, and I have my eyes open for people of capacity that might be leaders one day
Mm.
if this ever comes to fruition. And sure enough, like our team now is headed up by a lot of people that were at those early ones. And then
Mm.
like 5 years later, here we are. They didn't even have like a quote unquote conversion at that time. It just opened the conversation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and just having eyes for that, like that's it. And then being patient, letting the Spirit lead. Like God can do crazy things in an instant, but He'll also work over time and slowly. And so just to be patient with that, and if God has put a vision on your heart, to trust it and to take steps towards it, and then trust Him with the timing. But yeah, it's pretty fun to be in the middle of something that the Spirit is a part of, and God's blessing.
Mm. It's certainly true, and it's fun to watch and see and hear. Like I hear your stories, and I just wow, I get so excited. And so this is your second time running Alpha for people under 35 as a leader. Um, what have you done differently this time around?
It's fun to iterate with our team, because we make a ton of mistakes night over night, and we're always trying to be better. We're a little bit obsessive over it. It's kind of fun. Like we'll get together in our leadership team meetings, and just like they'll end up going all day. Like we'll just hang out. We're doing ministry with friends, so it's fun to problem solve and figure things out. And
Yeah.
one of the things we're doing differently this year is we asked a question that helps us understand where you're at in your faith, hopefully in a way that's like not super intrusive. It's hard to figure it out. But we basically ask people, how often do you go to church? We give them a ton of options that were not weekly, because that's our target audience. We hope to reach people that aren't here on a regular basis.
Or go,
And what
right?
that gives us the ability to, what's that?
Or go at all.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%. And what that gives us the ability to do is to identify the people that are coming to Alpha that are committed in terms of how they practice. Because one of the things we find is that when we reach people that don't come to church and don't have a faith background, and they show up and they're put in a small group with people that are very zealous and love Jesus, it scares them away. They don't feel welcome. And then they don't come back, and that's a problem. It's like we love people that love Jesus, like that is awesome, but it's we need to protect the integrity of the small group for the person that hasn't been to church in 10 years or ever. Like that's what it's
Mm-hmm.
for.
Yeah.
And so we're really trying to be intentional about that by letting the people that do love Jesus and understand church language, like putting them into the same small groups so that they can have a great time and experience the Holy Spirit. It's going to be awesome. But we really want to be sure that that for the people that don't understand church language, that or are skeptical, that they're around people that are like them, and so that they feel comfortable to explore from where they're at. That's one of the things we're trying, and we'll see how it goes. I don't know if it's necessarily the right play, but I think that it broke our hearts to learn that there were people that showed up and were scared away because it was too churchy, and that's the last thing we want Alpha to be. We want Alpha to be a place where you can explore from wherever you're at. If you want to come to church, come to church. Yeah, but Alpha, we're going to protect for the people that wouldn't come on a Sunday.
Right. Yeah, I'd run into a couple of young people who were on your last Alpha, and it was really good to see them. And so just asked them, how's it going? Hey, love an Alpha, cool. Do you have anybody going to this that's in your group that doesn't go to church? And it's like, well, we did, but they only came out the first couple weeks, and then those people left. And so it was just the people, which isn't uncommon when we start Alpha in general. But the moves you're making to take the zealots who are very Christian and in love with Jesus and the church, which is wonderful, that's beautiful, and put them together is really helpful. Because the primary people we're concerned about, the primary doesn't mean that they're not the secondary, is the people that are unchurched and dechurched, to give them a space where they can have real conversations. But if people are speaking in Latin or what have you, then all of a sudden it's like, well, that's weird. And they can hopefully have a conversation that's there. But that's those same principles. I love that we're talking about it, because those same principles go for no matter what your Alpha looks like, where you're starting, or what your groups are. It's one of the primary challenges that as leaders we need to deal with that stuff in our small groups sooner rather than later. So good on you for doing that. What have been the biggest challenges for you leading Alpha? You're welcome.
Good question. I think that the dealing with, I'd love to stay on that for a sec, because I do have questions for you on this. Because dealing with people that love Jesus is difficult. That's one of the hardest challenges, because I'm like them. I want to go deep. Yeah. I want to really dig in and get into this stuff. I was just watching the George Janko podcast yesterday. Pete Holmes was on, and I kind of want to send that podcast out to my team as like homework, because the way that I love George and I love what he's doing, the way that he was approaching this conversation with someone that sees things a little differently was just like with religious language, and just like at one time Pete, who's a comedian, called him out for being, he said it's like having a conversation with a hashtag, because like every time you're just repeating stuff that you've heard, and I want to hear what you think in your own language. And I think that resonates with a lot of people my age. So true. They don't know church language, and they actually don't really care if you can recite the Bible. The Bible doesn't have authority in their lives, but they know you, and they want to know what you have to say. And it's a great challenge for us as a team to have conversations like that. And so, like, I guess all that being said, my question for you is like, because there are people that will be good team in these tables that are very Christian tables, how do you protect the integrity of what Alpha is meant to be for them, so that they have an example of it if they were to come back on team?
Well, in all my years of running Alpha, I've usually had the tables that were most challenging to deal with, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to give other people a great experience of being on team, and I didn't mind dealing with the difficult situations. And so I think when you're running your Alphas, take the bullet, or have people that will take the bullet, so that, but I still got tons of great team members out of those groups. because I'm constantly discerning. And it's one thing to be really Christian and speak church. Um, but do you have the wisdom and the emotional intelligence and the self control to actually understand principles of evangelization and learn to dial it back? In other words, are you teachable? Because whether you're Christian or not Christian, if you're not teachable, it makes it really hard to be an effective team member. And so if you're able to spot people that are teachable and pull them aside and develop, because I've always developed authentic friendships with everybody that's been in my group for the most part and enjoyed it so much. Like, I remember having a table filled with widows who were much older, and it was just me. I was the only guy, and it's just a group of widows because everybody else, all the other tables were couples. And so I just put all the widows in one group. The hilariousness of that group, the things those women would say was make me blush. It was shocking. It was so much fun. I loved every single one of them. So I've never not done alpha. And not fall in love with the people at my table. But I'm always discerning. And so through those friendships, I'd pull people aside and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. You think you could help me out? And here's why. And this is what it could look like. Do you think you could do that? And I'd challenge them, one-on-one, and they'd come to the next meeting, and all of a sudden they're doing exactly what I asked them to do. And I'm thinking, you get it. Right. But if I have that same conversation with somebody and they're saying, yeah, up yours, I'll do whatever I want. And I need to fight for Jesus if you won't. And off they go, just letting everybody have it. And it's like, okay, you're not coming back on team. I promise you that. And so I think I've still been able to do it even in groups where I put in all the very committed Christians together. I've still been able to do it, but you're always discerning those things. But also too, if I were to bring somebody back and I was taking a chance on them, I would put them with me or
Mhm.
another strong leader. I wouldn't stick somebody that I'm 50-50, whether they're going to talk the whole time or speak church the whole time. If I'm not quite sure if they're there yet, I have to put them with a strong leader, because if I put them with somebody who's still stepping into that leadership role, growing, somebody that's very has a lot of promise and capacity, but is growing in their confidence, then I wouldn't put that person with them. So I'm very strategic in terms of, um, when I'm taking a risk, so to speak, I'm very conscious of putting those people with me or somebody else who will really be able to help them stop whatever they're doing that's disruptive. Yeah.
Hmm.
Does that answer your
Yeah.
question? Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And one of the, yeah, we try to be intentional with how we're building the groups and stuff too. One of the hardest things is just there's so many people and there's so many things to deal with. But yeah,
Mm.
trying to make sure that we're clear on what our mission is and making decisions based on that. Um,
Mm.
yeah, one of the other things I find very challenging is like
Yep.
emotionally is like, or there's two things. We'll start with this one. I've got a team now of 50 and I'm team coach. That's my role. So I'm in charge of investing in the team, and I also work full time, and I have relationships that with people that don't go to Alpha. Like I have a life, and I'm responsible for investing in this many people, and it's hard to figure out how to spend my
Yeah.
time well, and how to do that. We have 12 hosts, and even that's a lot of people to be having one-on-one conversations with. So, but you ran offices that were bigger than mine.
Mhm.
How did you manage that?
Um, I'll tell you, that pre and post meeting I was really strong on those. They're where I disciple people. And so that was really important. And also teaching people how to work the principles of Alpha really well in their small group and hold each other accountable themselves, and teaching them
Mm,
how to do that and giving them time to do that in the post meetings was really important. And if I had to speak to somebody, if I suspected an issue, I would deal with it right away, because the more you let it
mm,
go, the bigger the problem gets. And so, I heard it said, great leaders move towards issues before they become problems. And thinking something's going to go away is a terrible strategy, especially for what's at stake. And that's new
mm,
people, falling away because somebody was a moron. It's like, if we could curb that and help them. And that's what discipling is. Sometimes I'd say 99.9% of the time, people are doing things from a good place. They have good heart and a good intent. They're just unaware of their impact. And that's okay, but that's what leadership looks like. The other thing too, anytime anything gets too big, and this goes for all of church leadership, not just Alpha, but if it's too much for you, then change your structure. Full stop. Like if it's too much, I remember in the coaching that I do at one point, we had 13 coaches that I'd recruited. I couldn't breathe into all those guys and girls and all with all their issues and things. And so I had to create a structure where I invested in 4, and then I gave each of them 2 or 3 people to invest in. So I modeled it for them, then they modeled it for others. And so, you might even say, okay, who are my 2 or 3 most reliable people that get this the most, and then say, I need your help. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I need you to do. And just invite them to invest personally in a couple of people. So anytime things get overwhelming, this goes for you pastors and anybody else, it's a structure issue. Change your structure. Don't burn yourself or others out just to try to keep up with the principle, because the more success you have, you're going to have more problems, and it's usually burnout and not being able to keep up. That's a
Mm.
structure issue. Change your structure. Yeah. But I just want to say something,
Yeah.
Christian, like going back to what we were talking about earlier about Christians who are really strong in their faith and want to go deeper. I know what you mean. All the years I ran Alpha, I wanted to go deeper too. I wanted to say, okay, somebody else do this. I want to go dive into the things that are unbelievably Catholic and all the tradition and richness of our faith. I just love it so much. But God himself told me to keep my hand on that pump. And it's so funny because I had that image well before Father James ever had the image of the pump that he and Craig Sampson came up with, that parish catalyst that became so synonymous at St. Benedict. But um, a lot of Catholics don't know the difference between discipleship, fellowship, and evangelization. They really don't. And so they have good intentions. They think they're evangelizing when they're, just unleashing all that they know about the church. But Alpha teaches you how to evangelize because the primary skill of evangelization is asking good questions and listening, and then trusting a process. And what they're really probably hungering for is discipleship, not evangelization. But if they don't even know the difference, which most don't, then that's problematic. And so, and also, a lot of people do Alpha. They love it so much because of the fellowship. They're finally around people that they care about and, have relationships with, and they just want
Mm.
to keep repeating Alpha. And we're so nice in the church. We let them, and it kills Alpha. And what people are really looking for is fellowship. And so, but you don't have anything in your church because you don't know how to differentiate between those 3 things. And let's attach that missional health assessment to the bottom of this podcast, because it's a great tool to not only assess how you're experiencing your parish and share it with everybody in your parish and get them to do it too. Because right after that, not only will it tell you how your parish is doing based on your experience, it sends out a report to help you discern the results. But in that report, it tells you the definitions. And one of the things I find time and time again in churches is we're not able to have very intelligent conversations with one another, not because we're not intelligent, not because we're not faithful, but because we don't have a common framework and we don't have a common language. And because we can't differentiate, the way we talk about things is so frustrating and ridiculous. And so I think that's what we experience at Alpha sometimes, is people don't know the difference between evangelization, fellowship, and discipleship. And as a result, it really makes things challenging in churches. Yeah. Now you have a
Mm.
much better experience with that because you're at St. Benedict, and you have all these life groups and all these people that understand what it takes, and they're supporting you guys, and so they get it deeply, which is just so
Mm.
wonderful. But I think that's part of the problem. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Um, I do see that. Like, one of the interesting things about this alpha in particular is that, like, it's attractive. Like, people want to
Mhm,
be there. Like, people are hearing about it from other churches, and they're like, I want to go to alpha, but they don't
mhm,
necessarily want to come and consume the content at alpha. Like they're so far past that. They just want to know people. Like they want to be seen and heard and understood, and they want
Yeah.
to experience the Holy Spirit, and that's um, and they want to be around the momentum. Like God is moving here, like
I,
like they want to be around that. Um, and I don't know if there's anything else quite like this in. I don't even know if in our parish, like the idea is to move people, like to bring people into Alpha, have this foundation of what it's like to listen to people and be heard. Like there is discipleship in that. Like you will learn
amen.
about the heart of the Father by people that know Him as well. Like and if you're doing this faith thing on your own, like that's a problem. You're missing out.
Mhm.
But to be grounded in this, and then to move them into the parish that's also healthy and vibrant and has momentum in life. And it's it's hard when I don't necessarily know what to move them into next.
Mm.
It's hard. It's hard when it's like, yeah, you can't come back to Alpha, and I know that you want to come back to Alpha because it's a party.
Yeah.
Um, but we're protecting the integrity of Alpha for the people that are new, and that's a difficult one to do emotionally.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we are seeing people come in and wanting to experience it for the first time, not because they, and it's not discipleship. Like what they're longing for in terms of like content and discussion is not Alpha. They just want to be around people that they know
Fellowship.
and that have a similar experience to them, so they can grow deeper. And I don't know if
Yeah.
there's like, yeah, I don't know how to um, deal with that necessarily. It's just something that we're noticing, and again, God has been clear um, with myself and with our team that this is the pump that we're called to keep our hand on at the moment, and maybe
Yeah.
at some point it will evolve. But
Well,
yeah,
it'll
that's
evolve.
difficult.
I hope it doesn't evolve past, like, see, this is what so many people do. And I was just talking with Father Chris Ryan yesterday as we were doing some work on the new book we're writing. But, you know, no, not Steve, Jim Collins has the flywheel concept, and that new ideas, new launches are like a great big flywheel. And flywheels are often very heavy and they take a lot of energy to get going, like to create momentum. But if you stay at it long enough, you're persistent enough, and it's a good idea, you'll start to get traction. The more traction you get, the faster it goes, and the faster it goes, the easier it gets. And in fact, when it's going really well and healthy, you just have to give it a little spin once in a while, and it'll keep going. All the hard work is at the beginning. Now, one of the mistakes so many churches make and so many people in ministry make is that once you get that going enough, yes, it creates all kinds of needs for other things. So they take their hand off that flywheel altogether and they go and they start another flywheel, and all the fruit of bringing new people in grinds to a halt. And I see it over and over again, and it's tricky. And it happens in youth movements all the time when things really get cooking and people have profound experiences. The youth leaders want to stay with that group and kind of evolve with them. And so they do, and it's just so beautiful. But by the time those people age out, they look behind them and there's nobody there. It's because all the things that were present to make that possible to begin with have left because those people went on with the others. And this is why the game plan was so important to us. And that's why connect groups were the next step. Like it's alpha team, and then connect groups, because everybody gets booted out of alpha, but they want that party experience. Or in other words, they want fellowship. And so
Yeah, that's a way better
secondarily,
word.
you're going to have, yes, it is. You're going to have discipleship in there too, but it's like, I really wanna do life with friends. It's not enough just to get a bunch of Catholic information. It's like, actually my stronger longing is to belong and to be with
Mm.
people who know me and love me, where I can know and love others, like that authentic friendship. That's fellowship. And again, most churches don't do a very good job of that. We get super focused on content or catechesis because we think if we just form people's brains enough, that'll be all they need. It's like, no, it's not. It never was. That never was the case. But because we're not good at the fellowship piece, we always default to catechesis. And it doesn't mean catechesis doesn't have its place, but it needs to have its proper place. That's my perspective. It's my opinion. And that's why connect groups to me are the next best step, because that is people doing life together, continuing to grow. They're giving talks and it's stretching them like crazy. It's not a passive experience. It's a journey, and it's awesome. But anyway, so that's always been my thought on that. But I know there's different people with different perspectives, and they take different paths, and that's fine too. But you're creating, success creates a different set of problems. Like, it's really hard to get people under the age of 35. Well, you guys are starting to wrap your head around that and bring solutions to it, but now you're creating all kinds more problems. And so what's really important too for you and for the parish is that you're not the only one thinking about this. And that's also a problem in churches. A lot of people, I'm the director of evangelization and discipleship. It's like, do you have any idea how hard that is if you're good at it? To have both of those roles, like, that is humongous, because it takes so much work to do this stuff right. But a lot of people underappreciate that. And then the same person gets saddled with both of those things, and they're two very different things. And, even in diocese, they have that role in diocese. I'm the director of evangelization and discipleship and catechesis for the whole diocese. It's like, well, then I guarantee you're really bad at one of those two. And my guess is it's evangelization. And so, but because we just think, it's the same thing. It's like, no, it's not. And if you're going to do evangelization really well, it takes everything you have. And one of the reasons, and that maybe that'll line us into the next question, one of the reasons it takes everything you have is because you have to build a team. And so you have an alpha with 12 tables. How did you build that team?
Slowly. We first time we ran some alphas online, and then I took some time off from running alpha and just continuing to show up and invest in my faith community, knowing that I wanted more for this age group, but not knowing exactly how to build momentum or whatever, and just trying and meeting people along the way. And then the idea of this alpha started to come around, and I remember the first time we had an opportunity to do it, the team at St. Benedict's was like, I don't think we're going to be able to pull it off. And I was like, why? They're like, we don't have enough team. And I'm like, well, I got like 5 or 6 people I'll reach out, and we'll at least have some young adult tables at this one. And so we started, I think, with 3 young adult tables, which was like 8 team, maybe 6 or 8 teams, something like that. And then we had a what I call a commissioning night, that we started. This is a tradition that we started, and there was 5 or 6 people at that first one, and I just kind of walked them through what it means to invite somebody to alpha. And then they went out and asked their friends if they wanted to come. So the next time we ran this, we pulled team from the tables that we had just facilitated the season before, and there was probably about 20 people at the next commissioning night, and then some more people that weren't going to be on team that would still want to invite. And then and it kind of grows that way, like training your team to invite their friends, to keep an eye out for who is faithful, available, contagious, and teachable, and then inviting them to come back on team, and then continuing to invest in them. And that kind of grows. That's in our experience of running it 3 seasons in a row, it's grown exponentially. I'm a huge fan of the Louis Kane podcast we had a few episodes back. I forget what episode it is, but search it up if you can. And just the importance of having a great team, I don't think can be underestimated or overestimated in running an alpha. And by putting a lot of time and effort and investing in our people on team, we've seen some pretty interesting things happen. So, yeah.
Love it. Even as you're saying all that, Christian, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm listening to this podcast and I'm in a church and evangelization is important to me and reaching that age demographic is important to me, right away I'm thinking, how do I get a hold of this guy? And I just want to say to people that you and I are going to be at the Global Leadership Conference in May in London, England, the home of Alpha, the whole thing. We're going to be there this year. And actually, Huntley Leadership, we're doing an event at Father Stephen Langrich's parish the weekend before, leading into the conference. And so love for you to come. So again, we'll put an attachment down the bottom so you can link to that. We're just covering the cost of lunch for the time we're together, but it'd be a great opportunity for you to grab Christian and hold him upside down and get everything you can out of him. Because it means more coming out of you than it does me, because you're that age demographic. You're the one doing what I've never been able to do. And it's just so exciting and so fun. So if you've never been to the Global Leadership Conference, I'd encourage you to come. It's so amazing. Eh,
I
Christian?
think it's just Leadership Conference, LC 25, if they're looking it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
is the best. It's so cool. London is also the coolest city in the world. I felt like I was in a movie the whole time we were there. It was a blast. Yeah. Come hang out with
That's
us.
awesome. Come hang out with us. Absolutely. And we're also going to be down at the Rebuilt Conference in June. And so our friends, Father Michael White and Tom Corcoran and all their staff and key volunteers are hosting a huge conference on parish renewal. And we're going to be down there for that. And we've sponsored a booth there. And so we're really looking forward to connecting to everybody who loves all things parish renewal. And then we're going to be heading over to Father Michael Rubling's parish to do a what's it called, Pentecost retreat or mission. And Christian's going to be doing the music for that. And so, so we'd love to see you. We'd love to have these conversations with you. And maybe one final thing is we've launched this past year, put a ton of work into putting together a parish evangelization course for leaders, which is really designed to bless the daylights out of you if you're running Alpha or Christ Life or any other tool for evangelization, and wanting to get the most out of it and get supported as a leader who's driving that process. And so if that's you, this course is for you. Hit up your pastor for some cash. Go over to our website and sign up for that course, and let us help you and bless you, because every single person that we can help you additionally bring to faith, it's a game changer. And it's worth the time and investment. I know it's hard because everybody's busy. It takes a lot of time to run Alpha and do all this stuff. And like you said, we all have a life. Well, I'm telling you, investing in your leadership is worthwhile. And Christian, I know you've kind of been going through it too. How's your experience of it so far? Tell us a little bit about that.
It's been awesome. And the interesting thing about my context is that when I'm going through these, I've been hearing these concepts and these principles over and over again, because I grew up in your house. I get to have these conversations day in and day out. I've been invested in by you my entire life, and not everyone has that opportunity. And so the point of making this course was to bring all of that experience and insight into a place where it can be consumed and used by people that wouldn't necessarily have access to a mentor like yourself. And there's a lot of stuff in there from the rest of our team that have a ton of experience and have made all the mistakes that you don't want to make. So it is awesome. I'm going through it, and I'm still finding things that I'm like, yeah, man, we gotta be better at that. It's inspiring and it's super helpful. So I definitely recommend checking that out. It's a lot of links. You're putting me to work here. I'm the one who has to produce this thing, so I got to make sure I remember all these. I'm taking notes.
That's awesome. Yeah, big shout out to Lorraine McCarthy from Australia too. She's forgotten more than most of us will ever know about this stuff, and she's such a creative partner in everything we've done with respect to that course and everything else we do. Actually, she's just a joy to have on our team. She really is committed to parish renewal, which is absolute ton of fun. Just thinking the other day too, Christian, you're running the Alpha training at your parish. Nicole and I are running Alpha out of our house for our little parish here where we live, which we're really excited to do. I haven't done Alpha in the home in oh my heavens, since Truro That was probably 15 years ago. And so it's just so fun. It's so intimate, and it's a humble start. And, I've considered it a privilege and an honor to be able to do that. And then you're doing their second Alpha at St. Benedict Parish and responsible for running training for everybody. And who's in your Alpha training with you but mom and stepdad, Matt. And so you have three generations of us, still at it, still trying to bring people to Christ. And so, we live and breathe this stuff because we love Jesus and the church so darn much. It's painful. It's so fun. Let me ask you a question, Christian, around you personally, like leading Alpha. How has that helped you grow as a leader and or in your faith?
As a leader, it's stretched me for sure. I'm kind of in the middle of this journey of realizing that, like, I'm big on efficiency, and that's super helpful when it comes to running organizations and stuff, but it's not the entirety of the puzzle. Like, people matter so much, and it's not I used to take up an approach of how can I, like, have this conversation as quick as possible, but it's not, we're not to be efficient with people, we're to be effective. And I've really had to learn that experientially. You can tell me it as many times as you want, but until you're in it and you realize that actually, like, I can't do everything on my own and I need these people. And it's actually way more fun to work with these people when we know each other well and we care about each other and we know our gifts and we're able to set each other up for success. So I've really felt I've had to expand my ability to walk with people and to be patient and to delegate well. It's been fun to learn that. How has it helped me grow my faith? I think that our Alpha weekend retreat last year was crazy for me. Like, and I think this probably happens to a lot of people who have been walking with Jesus for a long time. But when was the last time you actually prayed for miracles or prayed over somebody for healing, or these things that we say that we believe that God has the power to do? But then like the Alpha retreat weekend comes up and we're going to pray for that stuff. And it's like, I don't know if he's going to show up. And I'm like really scared that I'm going to embarrass myself in front of all my friends. And he did. He shows up in power. Like, it's crazy. Two of my best friends from, like, childhood experienced the Holy Spirit in a way that has completely changed their lives, and we've got to talk about that and journey together through it, and it's been amazing. And again, I'll hang on this for forever, but I think there's so much of God's heart that we do not understand because of the people that are missing from our churches. And every time someone comes back to Christ, we get to uncover a new part of his heart. And yeah, that'll keep me going for at least a few more Alphas, if you know what I mean.
Wow. Never heard that before. That is, boy, that makes what we do matter, doesn't it? I never thought of that. It's so beautiful. And, having grown up in the same house, or watched you grow up, it's been just such a joy. I've always loved the friends, your friends and Hannah's friends. I just fall in love with them all. And I know most of our culture doesn't grow up in a faith community anymore, or a home of faith. And so, of course, that would go for your friends too. And doesn't mean we love them any less, that's for sure. They're amazing human beings. But when you take those amazing human beings with all of their gifts and senses of humor and smarts and hopes and dreams, and then they encounter Christ, it's like, oh, wow, that is so beautiful. Yeah. So it's been fun to watch. Have you been surprised by any of the people who've been showing up?
Not really. I
Okay.
mean, like, and I say that because, like, we're created for relationship with God, and I've seen people come to it from all angles. I expect everyone to say yes when I ask them, and not everyone does, but I really do. Like, I think my generation is curious about, is there more to life than this, and they want to figure it out.
Yeah.
it still warms my heart when someone shows up and I didn't think they were going to, but like, I'm not surprised. I think this is good stuff. I think this is the best stuff.
Mm,
People want it, and it's really nice when they decide to take that first step and seek God. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me, I don't think.
It's funny. I invited, for all of you that are listening, I invited 10 couples to this alpha we're doing in our home. And thankfully, our Karen, one of our other team members, is on the team because none of the people I invited showed up. And it kicks my butt. I just think, oh, I'm so bad at inviting. So I was talking to my brother the other day, and he asked me something about evangelization. You're so good at it. I'm thinking, I am terrible at it. Like, I'm so grateful that we get to do this together, evangelization as a parish, because if it was left up to me, oh,
Mm.
dear, oh dear Lord, we wouldn't have much of a hope into the future. I mean, I try, and I won't stop trying, but I'm not as good at it as people think I am. I keep trying to invite, and I fail more than I succeed, but I promise I'll never give up. And so if you're listening and that's you, I want you to know it's okay. We're in it together.
You know what you are really good at though is creating a space that is that people can invite to. Like the alphas that you run that I've been a part of are excellent, and it matters because if I'm going to go out on a limb and like risk the relationship that I have with this person to invite them to something, and they show up and it sucks, or it's awkward, or it's weird, or it's preachy, it's like that's a
Yeah.
huge.
Mm.
Yeah, my relationship with that person is on the line, but you've always been so good at creating a space, especially when it comes to alpha, that's
Mm.
comfortable and excellent and yeah and safe. And so that yeah, it is a gift that we get to do this as a church. Um, yeah, because then we can benefit from everyone's gifts in different
Mm.
areas.
Amen.
And some
Thank you
people are
for that.
really good at inviting, but yeah, yeah,
I
it all
remember
matters.
my friend Katya one time, because we'd often do a potluck after Alpha's over, mostly for the people that worked in the kitchen and did the weekend away and worked behind the scenes, did set up and tear down. Because we wanted to love on them and tell them some of the miracle stories of the life transformations that happened in the small groups. And so we just had potluck, and then we did some singing and praising, and then we kind of went around. Each table was responsible for telling one really cool story, and they did. And every time we did, we thanked all the people that were behind the scenes, because we wanted to link that hard work goes behind the scenes to the fruitfulness that we're experiencing. And that was really important to me. And in doing that, at the end, I just asked them, does anybody, any of you want to say anything? And I remember Katya saying, and she would cook for 160 people like nothing. And it's like, oh, that freaked me out like you wouldn't believe. Like, it gives me stress just even saying that now. I can't imagine being given that task. And I remember her saying her whole life she knew that she was supposed to evangelize, but she was never any good at it because all she knows how to do is cook. And she said, I finally feel like God is using my gifts to bring people home. And I remember I
Mm.
just cried, just broke down. I was like, you only know how to cook. Like, you have any idea how much I value that as somebody who's trying to run Alpha? Like, I can't do this without you. And it's just, that's what's so beautiful. That's why I love being experts in parish evangelization. It's way cooler than just being a good evangelist or an apologist. If you are, congratulations. But boy, I'm telling you, if you're a part of a great big giant team that's becoming great, and a parish is seeking to be experts in parish evangelization, I find it's just so much more life-giving. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a team player that way. Or maybe it's because
No,
I'm so
I
bad.
think
Yeah,
maybe somewhere in the middle. I don't know.
maybe somewhere in the middle. Can you share with us, Christian, and while maintaining confidentiality, can you think of a story, that a powerful story of somebody coming to faith because of what you're doing?
Yeah, a bunch, and yeah, I'll be relatively vague just to. I
Yeah.
know that some of my friends will listen to this podcast. It's not my story to tell, but I don't even know which one I'm going to tell yet. But there are people that have come through our alpha that have never stepped foot inside a church, and found it a safe enough place to try praying for the first time.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they've treated this journey of and God met them there, and they didn't really know exactly what to do about that, but they kept coming back and they kept seeking out guidance from the people in their small group and the older people at the church that have been doing this for a long time. And not everyone has a great retreat experience. Some people do, and some people find it weird and scary.
It's true.
But yeah, there's one particular story that followed that narrative and just continued to come back and figure it out, and so that's not a story that's over yet, by any means, obviously, but
Yeah.
I'd be really excited to tell that one someday. I don't know, some of these are so new that I don't.
What about the administrator? I think your administrator, I think that
Yeah,
story's
that we
been,
can tell that one.
hasn't it,
Yeah,
sir?
let's do
Yeah,
that.
tell that
Okay.
because it's amazing,
Yeah.
and that's not
Yeah.
just hers, right? So tell that story.
Yeah, so I'm
You can
sure
say
that
her
she
name,
would
can't you?
be. Yeah,
Yeah.
her name is Haley. She's amazing. She makes my life so much easier,
Yeah.
and more fun too. Yeah, she has all the gifts that I don't have, and um,
Thank you, Haley.
she grew up in church. Yeah, she grew up in church, but her family fell away for reasons that were their own.
Mhm.
So she hadn't really had faith as a component of her life for a long time, and then a couple summers ago she went to her cousin's baptism a few hours away in a country parish, and had a profound experience of the Holy Spirit. Or not a baptism, at confirmation. Had a profound
Mhm.
experience of the Holy Spirit at her cousin's confirmation. Came back and said, "Mom, we have to go to church." And her mom's like, okay, it's been a minute, but let's do it. And they came to St. Benedict's. That I think it was one of the weekends that Alpha was being promoted. They did Alpha together.
She did it with her mom.
She did it with her mom, and then they did Alpha again. She did it with her. She brought her dad back this time, and then her and her parents came back
She
on
was allowed to
team.
do it
And
twice?
I don't remember. Maybe she was on team or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But she did it with her mom, and then she brought her dad the next time, and then they were all on team. And yeah, and then as right around the time that we were getting ready to launch this, and I didn't know her very well. I think I might have said hi to her a couple of times because we were at the same
Yeah.
Alpha when she was on team, and then Arlene asked her if she'd like to do admin. It's been the best partnership ever. But yeah, one of the things she said to me that like it kind of wrecked me a little bit was just that that God brought peace to her household, to her family's life, and like that was just so interesting to me. Like she said like her relationship with her parents wasn't smooth, and it was fine, but there was maybe I put it like a little bit of a wedge between them and their relationship, and when they all came to faith and got to know
Mhm.
the Father, like the peace that he brought to their household was undeniable, and tangibly very real. Yeah, it's been a joy to get to know her and her family, and
I think her
do
parents are
life with
involved
them. So,
now, right?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They have been. I don't know if they are right now or
Heavily
not,
involved.
but yeah, yeah.
I've heard nothing but good things about them. I haven't met them, but
Mm.
it also it makes me think of my friend Father Stewart. I hope you're listening, because he's just such a proponent of doing Mass well and the sacraments well, because his belief is, and he's just so convicted of it, that when we do the sacraments well, when we do the Sunday experience well, people encounter Christ. Now, you know, I often say yes, but not very many. But this is a perfect example of that actually happening. And I know he's smiling and he's going to say, see, I told you. And I'm going to say yes. But I think it's fun because he and I speak the same language because he sees the value of alpha too. But it's one and the other. Like, don't do one well and be terrible at the other. Do both well. And this is a wonderful example. And even this whole story is a wonderful example of a church committed to evangelization and getting it right and having patience and continuing to lean into it, having a plan post alpha so that people have a place to go and the stuff continues to mature and grow. And then it creates a space for our kids to grow up in this culture and grow into maturity and adulthood and then start giving back in a powerful way, reaching a whole generation that we as parents wouldn't have a snowball chance in heck of reaching. And I bet on that horse all day long over just going out and hiring a youth minister in a church that barely knows how to do leadership at all and hope they're going to perform a miracle. It rarely happens. And it's often very frustrating. And so for all those that are listening that are in church leadership, double down on evangelizing adults and create a plan post alpha so that you can have this kind of a runway, have a longer vision for what you're doing, and have the patience and the prayer to bring it to life. If a parish is struggling with reaching young adults, which I know so many of us do, where should they start? What are your thoughts? I mean, I kind of guess I just said a few things on that. Didn't mean to, but that's the next question. Sure, that's a good. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I don't know. I can tell you where my head's at and what I think, but I'm just trying to figure this stuff out. I
Of course.
I do think that God has gifted each and every one of us with a circle of influence and maybe a vision that isn't necessarily for today. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not.
Mm.
Like, but take it to prayer. Like, God, what are you calling us to? Is it to reach this age demographic?
Mm.
We're called to reach everybody, so it's probably in there somewhere in your church, But
Yeah.
and then what does He put in front of you right now? Like, are there young people with leadership capacity in your church that you can be investing in? If not, keep praying. Who are the people with leadership capacity that you can invest in now?
Yeah.
Who are the people that you have influence with that you can run an alpha with? Like, even if they're not at church, especially if they're not at church on Sunday, like,
Mm.
and then watch out for the people that God will put in your path, because if it's
Mm.
of Him, He'll bring it to fruition, and it's a gift to be faithful to the call that He has on our lives.
Mm.
And when everything clicks, it's fun. But yeah, patience and intentionality.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Christian, it's fun to have this conversation with you. We've been meaning to have this podcast for a while, probably last term, even when you were running alpha with the same age demographic. And so here you're back at it again, and it's even bigger than it was before. And I know at one point when we were talking, you said, yeah, I got to figure out who I'm going to turn this over to. Remember that conversation?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, don't you dare. You've been anointed. There's an anointing on you. You're able to do things that I haven't seen anybody else do. And so the last thing you want to do is say, did it and keep going. It's like, no, abide in that, stay there. There's so much learning and growth for you as a young man. And you're being used by God to do something miraculous in many ways with this group of team that's around you. And don't be quick to step away from that. Yes, raise up all kinds of leaders around you, but stay in that space. You'll know when God's calling you out of it. Don't run out of it. Be obedient and grow and evolve as the leader that God's calling you to. And I just said that to you. I'm saying that to the rest of you that are listening. If there's an anointing, then don't run away from it. But also, if you think the anointing's not on you, it's a grind for you, and it could be an anointing for somebody else. Watch for that anointing. Watch for the story of the prophet who went and The man said, "Show me your sons. I'm here to anoint the king." And it's, I guess it's the most handsome oldest son. It's like, not him. What do you mean it's not him? He goes all the way down. It's like, no, it's none of them. Do you have anyone else? Yeah, well, I've got this little runt of a kid out taking care of the sheep. Bring him here. And sure enough, it was David. And he anointed David. Give us eyes to see, Lord, who you're anointing. And if you're the anointed, stay in that space and grow and evolve and mature and take everybody with you on that ride. It's really helpful and important. Yeah. So thanks
Yeah,
for having this
I love
conversation.
that. I wanted to say too, if there's people my age that are listening to this and you think that maybe God's put a call on your life and you think you'd have fun running something like Alpha at your church, let your leadership know. Because I
Mhm.
didn't know that they had a vision for this until I sat down with my priest and said, hey, like, I'm actually in a space where I can get involved again. And this is the area that I think I want to get involved in. And he's like, perfect. We've been waiting for you. Let's go.
Ah,
You know,
ah, ah,
and so if that's you and you're like, well, just
yeah.
have that conversation. You know, maybe it's the time right now, and maybe it's a few years down the road. For us, it was a year and a half later that we launched. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, please make yourself known to your priests and to your parish leadership. It makes them excited too. So
It's
don't
true
stay
because it's
hidden.
hard to find that person.
Mm.
But so yeah, step up. I love that. Yeah, thanks for saying that. For those of you that are listening, I know most of our people that have come across our podcast are first time listeners, and I'd love it if you'd subscribe. I know this stuff is free for you, and I'm glad it is. I want it to be. But when you subscribe and share and things like that, then maybe someday we'll get to a place where we have enough subscriptions that we can get a dribble worth of income back on this whole stuff. We love doing it. We're going to do it anyway. But that's how you could love on us: is subscribe, like, share, because there is algorithms out there that we can, if we meet them, then we can start generating a little bit of revenue on this, because it certainly takes our time. We're happy to do it. We love you. We appreciate the work that you do in your church. We love Jesus. We love the church just like you. So keep doing what you're doing, and we'll see you next time. I want to encourage you, as you lead this week, be faithful to God and generous to others. See you next time, and remember, if you're still breathing, you are powered for impact.